Vice President Kamala Harris is speaking in Houston tonight as she sets a timeline to choose her running mate. A pick is expected to be made by Monday. But we're going to begin tonight with former President Donald Trump's startling comments at the National Association of Black Journalists conference in Chicago today. His appearance quickly turned hostile as he questioned Kamala Harris's racial identity, despite his stated desire to make inroads with black voters. We may hear more from him about it tonight. He's holding a rally in Harrisburg. You see him there. It's the former president's first visit to Pennsylvania since the assassination attempt in Butler. Our Robert Costa is there in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, covering tonight's Trump rally, and our Ed O'Keefe is in Houston covering Kamala Harris's event at an historically black sorority. Welcome to you both. So, Robert, let's start with that Q&A that former President Trump participated in at the National Association of Black Journalists conference today. He was asked if he agrees with Republicans who have demeaned VP Harris by calling her a DEI hire, and he said she, quote, could be a DEI hire, and he also said this. Take a listen.
I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much, and she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
So he said she turned black recently. You could hear people in the room gasping. Robert, is the Trump campaign attempting to do any cleanup tonight after all that?
Good to be with you, Nancy. I'm here in Pennsylvania, and former President Trump will be here soon, but it is his remarks in Chicago earlier today that have been seen widely across the political spectrum as incendiary. Instead of avoiding the topics of race and gender, former President Trump decided to go right at the issue of race. Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, went to a historically black college, Howard University, has long talked in positive and obviously personal terms about her family's journey in this country, her parents, academics and activists, and she has embraced her history, her lineage. And you see former President Trump, instead of talking about the issues, talking about race, and it is something that has set the political world afire tonight. But among many Trump supporters here, there's a relative shrug. This is the Trump they know. This is the Trump they have come to embrace politically. And among the Trump voters I've spoken with here, there's no concern at all about those comments in Chicago.
Right. I mean, this is the Trump who made his way onto the political stage by questioning whether Barack Obama was born in this country. Ed, the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, was told about Trump's comments in real time in the White House briefing today. And take a look at what she said in response.
As a person of color, as a black woman who is in this position that is standing before you at this podium behind this lectern, what he just said, what you just read out to me, is repulsive, it's insulting, and, you know, no one has any right to tell someone who they are, how they identify. That is no one's right. It is someone's own decisions.
So that's the White House. Ed, how is the Harris campaign reacting to what the former president said about her today?
Well, Nancy, the vice president is headed here to Houston tonight, as you said, to speak to a national sorority here at the convention center in Houston. We are likely to hear more from her once she arrives, but for now, the campaign in a statement has said that the hostility Donald Trump showed on stage today is the same hostility he's shown throughout his life, throughout his term in office, and throughout his campaign for president as he seeks to regain power and inflict his harmful Project 2025 agenda on the American people. They add that he lobbed personal attacks and insults at black journalists the same way he did throughout his presidency, while he failed black families and left the entire country digging out of the ditch he left us in. Donald Trump has already proven he cannot unite America, so he attempts to divide us. That from a campaign spokesman. They're not only seizing on what he said about the vice president's own identity, but also the way he responded to questions from some of our colleagues in the press who happen to be black and who were among those questioning him at the NABJ conference. We should point out these are annual conferences, and every 4 years the associations of Asian, Hispanic, black, and gay journalists, as they hold their summer conferences, invite the presidential candidates to come speak. Trump accepted the invitation, in part because he's been making an appeal to black voters, especially in battleground states. But we'll see how those voters and others across the country react to what he had to say today in the coming days.
Right. He repeatedly went after Rachel Scott of ABC, saying that she was nasty and hostile, simply, it appears, for asking him about comments that he himself has made in the past. Robert, Trump was also asked about his choice for vice president, Senator J.D. Vance. And interestingly, Trump said that historically the choice of a VP doesn't have any impact on the outcome, really downplaying the importance of his own pick there. But North Carolina Senator Kevin Cramer told CBS News today that a high-up important person, he didn't say who, but someone high up, ostensibly with the campaign, told him that Trump should have picked someone else. In fact, should have picked Doug Burgum, the governor of North Dakota. What are you hearing from the campaign about the J.D. Vance choice?
I'm told from several people close to the campaign that former President Trump has never thought about the vice presidential selection, be it in 2016 or 2024, as a serious part of the presidential campaign. He believes the campaign's about him versus the Democratic nominee, and the running mate is interesting for a few days, but never something that he believes will hold the interest of him or voters. So you see him giving a concession, in a sense, to his base by picking Senator Vance, who's a favorite of the conservative commentator Tucker Carlson, a favorite of his son, Donald Trump Jr., and someone who is liked by his campaign staff because of the possibility of maybe adding some support in the industrial Midwest. At the same time, it's not something that is a fixation for former President Trump. I'm not hearing any talk that he is going to dump Senator Vance from the ticket, but he did like North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum a lot. Talked in private, I'm told, for many months how he believed Burgum came from central casting, had the right look, the right positions. But ultimately, he went with Senator Vance, 39 years old. Is there regret? I don't hear that directly from people close to Trump. At the same time, I hear he's shrugging off the criticism of Vance. He believes that at the end of the day, the campaign's about Trump.
Right. Definitely defending him today, saying that he just really loves family, saying that in response to some of J.D. Vance's past comments, criticizing people who are childless. Ed, you are in Houston to cover Vice President Harris's appearance there. This is her second time in Houston in the past week. Is there a strategy to her spending so much time in a red state like Texas, or is this just happenstance?
It is happenstance, Nancy. In fact, it's her third visit to the Lone Star State in the last month. Last week, it was for a previously scheduled appearance at another sororities conference here in Houston, and then she tacked on a visit to an emergency operations center still dealing with recent flooding here. This time it's because tomorrow is the funeral for the late Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, a longtime friend of the vice president, a fellow sister in the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, and she wanted to be able to be here for the funeral, which is tomorrow morning. Tonight, they added a campaign fundraiser a few blocks from where we are, and then an appearance at another sororities biennial conference here in Houston. Convenient timing, perhaps, but it's not part of some attempt to win Texas. It's still widely understood among Democrats that that is very much a reach and not something that's likely to happen this year. That said, coming here to Harris County, populated part of the state, just about the third largest city in the country, if you take this metropolitan area as a whole, doesn't hurt to have her here, running up the vote potentially come the fall for making so many appearances and potentially keeping the margins in Texas at least closer. But other than that, it's merely coincidence. And the president also was here in Houston on Monday to pay respects to Congresswoman Jackson Lee. So all of it mostly designed for that.
Robert, Trump tonight is making this appearance in Pennsylvania for the first time since the assassination attempt against him in Butler, Pennsylvania. What's the security like there in Harrisburg at the event?
It's guarded by Secret Service. Everyone went through magnetometers coming in here, were waved down. So it's tight security. It doesn't feel like it's an unusual amount of security for former president. A lot of Secret Service at every one of his events. It's hard to get into an event. There's a lot of police presence in the surrounding neighborhoods and roads. Certainly heavy security, but as a reporter, I've been to many Trump rallies, and it doesn't strike me as anything out of the ordinary. What is notable is a lot of the President Trump behind me on stage have been referencing an assassination attempt. President Trump putting his fist in the air, surviving the assassination attempt. So there's rallying around of Trump by his core supporters. Also an appearance by Senate candidate McCormick, trying to add a Senate seat for the GOP. He's running against Bob Casey, the incumbent Democrat.
And it's an indoor event, which is always easier for the Secret Service to secure. Robert Costa in Pennsylvania, Ed O'Keefe in Texas, thanks so much to you both.